Chris Christie might have finally done it. It might be totally and utterly over. I think it is. And now, look, he's been surrounded by controversy, some of it devastating. Not only did he close down the George Washington Bridge, the people working for him did, it appears under his orders, and he pretended not to know anything about it and then found out, oh, I'm shocked and aghast to find out they closed the bridge for political purposes. And then he threw a couple of them under a bus, but that didn't really help his case too much. But then we found out that he was misusing Hurricane Sandy relief money, which is outrageous. In a lot of cases, he was directing the money to towns that did not get affected by Superstorm Sandy at all, okay? And sometimes on real estate projects with allies of his that were political and financial allies, including, by the way, Shaquille O'Neal, who wound up endorsing him and doing an ad for him right before his reelection. Turns out there was a financial tie to a real estate property that got that Superstorm Sandy money. So, I mean, it's as dirty as it gets. In fact, now revelations show that $25 million for Superstorm Sandy relief money was misused for political reasons. Okay, that's a gigantic sum, and it's horrible. Now, for the George Washington Bridge story, it turns out that the Port Authority that New Jersey is obviously half in control of. If you don't know, New York and New Jersey run the Port Authority together, all the tunnels and bridges that connect New York and New Jersey. Well, he used it as a de facto political operation, according to a story from the New York Times. Now, that New York Times story just came out. First, let me give you the poll numbers before this last devastating turn. For the first time in a long time, he is now in underwater, meaning that he's more unpopular than popular in New Jersey. 41% approve of Christie's job performance, 44% disapprove. That number is about to get much, much worse. But understand that since November, he's already lost 20 points in popularity. That's an enormous nosedive. Okay, so how's it going to get worse? Well, that brings us to the new New York Times story, where they explain that Chris Christie used memorabilia from 9/11 for political purposes as gifts to politicians who endorse him. You can't recover from that. So here's the New York Times explaining it. For a state that lost hundreds of lives on September 11th, the gifts were emotionally resonant. Pieces of steel from the ruins of the World Trade Center. They were presented by the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey to 20 carefully chosen New Jersey mayors who sat atop a list of 100 whose endorsements Governor Chris Christie hoped to win. Oh, bribing people with actual steel from the 9/11 wreckage? Come on, man, you can't. That's as evil as it gets in politics. You can't recover from that. It's over. It's over. I mean, you think the Democrats would use that against him? In a Republican primary, they would pull his guts out and show it to him and speak in his face. Are you kidding me? They're not going to let him get away with this. He's done. More from the New York Times. Turning wreckage of the Twin Towers into politically motivated gifts before Mr. Christie's 2013 reelection was only one example. The authority became a means to reward friends or hire them and punish adversaries, and a bank to be used when Mr. Christie sought to avoid raising taxes. So now look, this will be a small part of the story that won't get talked about as much. They'll talk about how he used 9/11 wreckage, etc. And that's it. He's done. Okay. Stick a fork in him. The fat lady sings. He's gone. OVAH, over. Okay. So now, but the part of the story that won't get that much attention is the very end of that. So he said, I'm tough. I'm fiscally conservative. I'm not going to raise taxes. So but he had to pay the bills. So how did he pay the bills? He would close down projects that the state desperately needed, and he would take the money that was allocated to those projects and use it as part of his regular budget and be like, what, I didn't raise taxes. He would often use the Port Authority to do that because he'd close down really important bridges or tunnels that they were working on and then take the money. But it got worse. He also did this. Major policy initiatives, such as instituting a large toll and fare increase in 2011, were treated like political campaigns to burnish the governor's image. He said, well, I'm not going to raise taxes, so what am I going to do? I'm going to raise your tolls. Now, who pays the tolls? Middle-class Americans, guys from Jersey who work in New York, who are going across the bridges and the tunnels, they got to pay more for the tolls. So in one of the cases, $4.50 per trip. That's incredibly expensive. So that's a tax, but that's a tax that disproportionately hits the middle class and not the rich. Yeah, the rich take the bridge and tunnel from Jersey to New York too, but that's a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage of their income. If you raised income taxes, that would be a much bigger number, right? So you don't raise income taxes, thereby shield the rich, and you take a toll increase, which is a de facto tax, and you put it on the middle class. That's how these Republicans do it. That's actually, in some ways, a bigger crime, because that's how they redistribute the wealth from the poor and the middle class to the rich. And by the way, Christie did find somehow money to lower taxes on corporations in New Jersey. So you pay more going over the bridge to go to work, but corporations pay less. All right, now one last part of this, just to add a little insult to injury. They knew that raising the toll fees would be really unpopular. So get a load of the trick that they did. New York Times explains. Mr. Christie instructed the group to propose a plan for a $6 increase for cars by 2014. He told them that he would publicly rail against it and that the agency would then agree to a lower number, easing the inevitable political fallout while still getting new income, according to a person who was briefed by an attendee on the participants and what was said. And that's exactly what they did. In the public record, you see the Port Authority saying, oh, we have to. When there's nothing we can do, we did a study, found out that we've got to raise the toll by $6. And then, by the way, New York Governor Cuomo, who's a Democrat, and Christie both come out and say, outrageous! We will protect our taxpayers. We will protect our citizens. You're going to lower that number. Initially, they were thinking of lowering it to $4. They're like, looks like we can get away with $4.50. So they lower it to increasing it by $4.50, and they say, we are champion of the people. Meanwhile, according to the attendees, they cooked up the whole plan. So they could shift the burden onto you and then take credit for protecting you. Now that you know what Christie's about, who in their right mind would vote for that guy?